The warning lights flashed crimson across Lyra Blackwood's helmet display as her submersible's power core fluctuated dangerously. She was too deep, far deeper than Europa Base had authorized, but the biological readings she detected couldn't be ignored. Something lived in these lightless waters beneath Europa's ice sheet, something that defied every parameter of known life. "Station, this is Blackwood," she transmitted, fighting to keep her voice steady as the submersible groaned under the immense pressure. "I've lost primary power. Attempting emergency protocols." Static answered her call. The ice above was too thick for clear communications. The emergency lights flickered and died, leaving her in complete darkness. Lyra closed her eyes, forcing herself to breathe slowly. 6 years of deep-sea research on Earth had taught her that panic was a killer more efficient than any depth. She reached for the manual release on her backup power cell when something brushed against her vessel's hull. At first, she thought it was ice debris, but the touch was too deliberate. A soft blue glow suffused the water outside her viewport, and Lyra's breath caught in her throat. A figure moved through the darkness, humanoid but clearly not human. Its skin was translucent, seeming to capture and reflect the bioluminescence that pulsed beneath its surface like liquid starlight. The being pressed its hand against her viewport, and Lyra found herself mirroring the gesture. Its eyes were mesmerizing pools of swirling silver, holding an intelligence that spoke of centuries of wisdom. Without warning, the creature began manipulating something on the submersible's exterior. "Please," Lyra whispered, knowing the being couldn't hear her through the hull. "I mean you no harm." The submersible system suddenly hummed back to life, power restored through means she couldn't comprehend. The being drifted back, studying her with those ethereal eyes. Then, impossibly, a voice resonated directly in her mind. "You are far from your designated boundaries, surface dweller." The thoughts carried a mixture of curiosity and caution. "I am Neith, guardian of the deep paths. Your presence here risks much." Lyra's scientific training warred with her wonder. "I'm Dr. Lyra Blackwood. I've been studying the unusual energy signatures in this region." "Are you responsible for them?" "Energy signatures?" Amusement colored Neitha's mental voice. "You detect merely the echoes of our songs. The true music lies deeper still." Before Lyra could respond, her sensors screamed warnings. A massive current was building below them, threatening to drag her submersible into the abyss. Neitha's form tensed, the luminescence beneath their skin pulsing faster. "Others come. Less understanding than I." Neitha's thoughts carried urgency now. "You must return to your surface dwelling. But know this, your curiosity has been noted, Lyra Blackwood. Perhaps you are different from those who came before." "Wait." Lyra called out as Neith began to fade into the darkness. "Will I see you again?" A final thought brushed her mind, gentle as a wavelet. The deep paths echo with many songs. Those who listen carefully may find their way back. The current seized her submersible, but Lyra barely noticed as the emergency protocols engaged, beginning her ascent. Her mind was filled with silver eyes and bioluminescent skin, with the impossible reality of what she'd discovered. She knew she should report everything to Europa Base, but something held her back. Neith had trusted her with knowledge of their existence, knowledge that could reshape humanity's understanding of life itself. As her submersible breached the upper layers of Europa's ocean, Lyra made her decision. She would return, regardless of the risks. There were mysteries in these depths that called to her very soul, and in Neitha's eyes, she had seen something more precious than any scientific discovery, the possibility of connection across the vast divide of evolution and space. She began composing her mission report, carefully omitting any mention of intelligent life. Some truths needed time to surface, like air bubbles rising slowly through the depths. For now, she would keep Neitha's secret, and dream of the day their paths would cross again in the luminous darkness beneath Europa's ice. 3 weeks had passed since Lyra's encounter with Neith, and sleep eluded her. Every night, she found herself staring at the data readings from that fateful dive, searching for scientific explanations that could rationalize what her heart already knew. She had encountered something extraordinary. The soft hum of Europa Base's environmental systems couldn't mask the sound of approaching footsteps. Lyra quickly switched her display to routine survey data as Dr. Julian Rosewood, the mission's lead scientist, entered the lab. "Still chasing anomalies, Blackwood?" Julian's tone carried a hint of concern. "The board's getting nervous about your repeated requests for deep-water permits." Lyra managed a casual shrug. "The thermal variations at those depths are unprecedented. We can't ignore potential breakthrough data just because it's inconvenient to collect. There's a difference between inconvenient and dangerous." Julian leaned against her workstation. "Listen, I've approved your next dive, but please, stay within designated parameters this time." After he left, Lyra released a breath she hadn't realized she was holding. Tomorrow's dive would take her back to the deep paths, but this time she was prepared. She had modified her equipment based on the energy patterns she'd observed in Neetha's bioluminescence. The next morning, as her submersible descended through layers of ancient ice, Lyra activated her new frequency scanner. Hours passed with nothing but the usual readings, until, there, a familiar pulse of energy, like a heartbeat in the darkness. "I wondered if you would return." Neetha's mental voice carried a warmth that belied the freezing temperatures surrounding them. The crystalline being emerged from a hidden crevice, their skin shimmering with patterns Lyra now recognized as a form of communication. "I had to understand," Lyra replied, both aloud and in her thoughts, having practiced focusing her mental energy. "Your people, the Lumini, you've been here all along, haven't you?" Neith drifted closer to the viewport. "Since before your kind first dreamed of the stars. We are the custodians of Europa's memories." Their silver eyes clouded briefly. "Though some believe we should have remained hidden forever. Why show yourself to me then?" "Because you listen." Neetha's form pulsed with soft blues and greens. "Not just with instruments, but with your heart. Come. There is something you should see." Neith led Lyra's submersible through a maze of ice tunnels that her scanners hadn't detected. They emerged into a vast chamber that took her breath away. Crystalline structures rose from the ocean floor, their surfaces etched with flowing patterns that seemed to move in the water. "Our archives," Neith explained. "Each crystal holds memories of our people, our history, and our encounters with humanity." Lyra's heart skipped. "You've met humans before. Once, long ago. Before your current age of exploration. They came in vessels of metal and pride, seeking to claim our world." Neetha's skin darkened. "Many lives were lost, both theirs and ours. The Council decreed that we would retreat deeper, becoming myth rather than risk another war. But we're different now," Lyra protested. "We come seeking knowledge, understanding dash. Do you?" A new mental voice interrupted, harsh and cold. Another Lumini emerged from the archives, their form crackling with red energy. "Neith, you break our most sacred laws by bringing this surface dweller here." Elder Sylph, Neith acknowledged, positioning themselves between Lyra and the newcomer. "Dr. Blackwood has proven herself worthy of trust." "Trust?" Elder Sylph's thoughts radiated disapproval. "Like the trust that led to the Great Burning? When human machines poisoned our thermal vents with their failed experiments?" Lyra felt the weight of accusation in those ancient memories. "I'm sorry for what happened before. But please, let me prove that cooperation is possible. My research could help protect your world, not exploit it." The elder's form pulsed with dangerous intensity. "You have until the next tide cycle to leave our waters, surface dweller. After that, we will consider your presence an act of aggression." They turned to Neith. "And you will face the Council's judgment for this breach." As Elder Sylph disappeared into the archives, Lyra turned desperately to Neith. "I won't just leave you to face punishment for showing me kindness. You must." Neetha's thoughts were gentle but firm. "But perhaps there is a way to bridge our worlds without breaking them. Return to your base, Lyra. Study what you've learned here. When the time is right, the deep paths will guide you back. With a heavy heart, Lyra began her ascent. She knew she should feel triumphant, she had confirmed the existence of an advanced aquatic civilization. Instead, she felt the weight of secrets pressing against her chest like the ocean itself. Somewhere below, Neith faced judgment for trusting her, while above, her own people remained ignorant of the wonders that dwelled in Europa's depths. As her submersible broke through into the upper waters, Lyra made a silent vow. She would find a way to prove Elder Sylph wrong. There had to be a path forward that honored both worlds, she just had to be brave enough to find it. The holographic display in Lyra's quarters flickered with countless data streams, thermal readings, energy signatures, and crystalline patterns she'd documented from the archives. She'd spent days analyzing them, searching for something that might help Neith's situation. A soft chime from her door interrupted her concentration. "Come in," she called, quickly switching to a basic research screen. Dr. Rosewood entered, his expression unusually grave. "We need to talk, Lyra." He handed her a data tablet. "These readings from your last dive, they're impossible. The energy patterns suggest organized activity at depths where no life should exist." Lyra's throat tightened. "Perhaps our understanding of possible life forms needs revision." "The board agrees." Julian's eyes narrowed. "They're sending a research fleet. Full extraction teams, core sampling equipment, everything needed to conduct a thorough investigation of the deep zones." Horror crept through Lyra's veins like ice. An extraction fleet would devastate the Lumini's carefully hidden world. Before she could respond, her emergency beacon activated. The signal was unlike anything she'd seen before, a pulsing pattern that matched Neith's bioluminescent communication. "I need to check something in the lab," she said hurriedly. "We'll discuss this later." Once alone in her submersible bay, Lyra decoded the signal. Neith's mental voice, though weaker across the distance, filled her mind. "The Council has discovered ancient records. The Great Burning, it wasn't what we believed. You must come. Quickly." Ignoring all protocols, Lyra launched her submersible into Europa's dark waters. She found Neith waiting at their usual meeting point, their crystalline form dimmed with urgency. "Follow me," Neith projected. "There isn't much time." They descended to a chamber Lyra hadn't seen before. Ancient machinery, a hybrid of crystalline and metallic technology, lined the walls. In the center, a holographic display showed scenes from Europa's past. "These are the true records," Neith explained, their thoughts tinged with sadness. "The Great Burning wasn't caused by human aggression. It was an accident, one that both our peoples tried to prevent." The hologram showed human and Lumini working together, attempting to stabilize Europa's thermal vents after a natural disaster. Their combined efforts had saved countless lives, but the cost had been the loss of their surface settlements and the fracturing of their alliance. "The Council hid this truth," Neith continued. "They believed isolation would protect us better than cooperation. But now Now my people are coming again," Lyra finished. "With technology that could destroy everything you've built. The Council plans to activate the ancient defense systems." Neith's form pulsed with worry. "Weapons that could tear apart any vessel that breaches our waters. There would be no going back from such an act." Lyra's mind raced. What if we could show them this? Both sides. Prove that cooperation isn't just possible, but that it's worked before. "The Council would never allow Neith began, but another voice cut through their communion. "Perhaps it's time they did." Elder Sylph emerged from the shadows, their energy patterns subdued. "I was wrong about you, Dr. Blackwood. These records, they show us a path I had forgotten was possible." "Then help us," Lyra pleaded. "The fleet comes with extraction equipment. If they drill into the wrong places, they would breach the thermal networks we've spent centuries stabilizing," Elder Sylph finished. "Very well. We will share the truth, all of it. But this time, we must do better than our ancestors." The next hours were a blur of activity. Using the ancient communication arrays, they transmitted the historical records to Europa Base. Lyra's heart pounded as she watched Julian and the other scientists receive proof of not only the Lumini's existence but humanity's forgotten connection to them. As the transmissions ended, Lyra turned to Neith. "What happens now?" "Now," Elder Sylph answered, "we rebuild what was lost. The council will meet with your leaders. But first..." They turned to Neith. "Your judgment has been reconsidered. Your trust in Dr. Blackwood has opened a door we had welded shut in fear." Neith's form brightened with joy, patterns of light dancing across their crystalline surface. They reached out, their energy field brushing against Lyra's submersible in what she had come to recognize as their equivalent of an embrace. The deep paths echo with new songs, Neith projected, their thoughts warm with hope. "Perhaps this time, we will remember to sing them together." As Lyra began her ascent to coordinate with Europa Base, she felt lighter than she had in weeks. The truth had finally surfaced from the depths of history. Yet she knew this was just the beginning. The real challenge would be helping both sides navigate these new waters without repeating the mistakes of the past. The conference room aboard Europa Base hummed with tension as holographic representatives from Earth's United Science Council faced the projected images of the Lumini Council. Lyra sat beside Julian, watching the diplomatic dance unfold with growing unease. "The thermal vent technology alone could revolutionize our energy production," argued Counselor Thompson, her avatar leaning forward eagerly. "Surely a knowledge exchange would benefit both our peoples." Elder Sylph's crystalline form rippled with caution. "Our technology is deeply integrated with our biological processes. It cannot simply be extracted." "Then perhaps a joint research initiative," Julian suggested, shooting Lyra a supportive glance. "With appropriate safeguards for both sides." Lyra felt Neith's familiar mental touch before seeing their form materialize in the holographic space. "Our ancestors found a balance. We can do the same." But as the negotiations continued, Lyra noticed subtle shifts in the human representative's language. Words like access and resources began replacing cooperation and exchange. The Lumini Council's responses grew increasingly guarded. Later, in her quarters, an urgent message from Earth Command shattered her hopes. They were sending a specialized extraction team, with or without Lumini approval. The official reason was securing humanity's future, but Lyra recognized the fear driving their decisions. "They're afraid," she explained to Neith during their secret meeting in the deep paths. "Afraid that if they don't act now, they'll lose access to your knowledge forever." "Fear breeds fear," Neith responded, their light pattern somber. "Some on our council speak of activating the ancient defenses, even knowing the cost." Lyra pressed her hand against the viewport. "There has to be another way." Part 5, Beyond the Depths. The extraction fleet arrived 3 days later, their massive hulls casting shadows through Europa's ice. Lyra watched from her submersible as Lumini defense systems hummed to life deep below, both sides edging toward catastrophe. That's when she noticed something in her readings, a pattern she'd seen in the ancient records. The thermal vents were showing signs of instability, just like before the Great Burning. History wasn't just rhyming, it was about to repeat itself. "Julian," she called over the comm, "get me a direct link to both councils. Now." Minutes later, she faced the assembled representatives, her heart racing. "The vents are destabilizing. If we don't work together, right now, we'll lose everything. Both our peoples barely survived this once before. We can't let it happen again." She transmitted her readings, watching understanding dawn in both human and Lumini faces. Elder Sylph was the first to speak, the old songs speak true. "We faced the same tide that once nearly destroyed us." What followed was a symphony of cooperation. Human engineering merged with Lumini biological technology. Lyra worked alongside Neith, their different approaches creating solutions neither could have devised alone. Hours stretched into days as they fought to stabilize the vents. Finally, in a moment Lyra would never forget, the last energy signature settled into harmony. The crisis had brought them together, just as it had their ancestors. Standing before both councils, Lyra and Neith presented a new proposal. A permanent joint institute would be established, dedicated to understanding and preserving Europa's delicate ecosystems. Knowledge would be shared, but with respect for each civilization's boundaries and needs. "We are different," Lyra concluded, feeling Neith's supportive presence beside her. "We come from separate worlds, separate evolutionary paths. But our differences are our strength. Together, we can reach depths neither of us could touch alone." The agreement that followed wasn't perfect, but it was honest. Human technology would help maintain Europa's thermal stability, while Lumini insights would revolutionize human understanding of biological engineering. More importantly, both sides committed to remembering their shared history, both its triumphs and its mistakes. Months later, Lyra stood in her new laboratory, built at the boundary between the ice and the deep ocean. Through one window, she could see Europa Base's lights gleaming above. Through another, she watched Lumini students teaching human scientists their bioluminescent language. Neith appeared beside her, their crystalline form glowing with contentment. "The deep paths sing with new harmonies," they projected. Lyra smiled, resting her hand against the viewport that separated them. "And we're learning to sing along." Together, they watched the lights dance between their two worlds, no longer divided by the depths but united by them. In the end, it wasn't just about breathing underwater or surviving in the dark. It was about finding light in the deepest places, and having the courage to share it. The end.